They told you that being selfless was noble, that serving others before yourself made you good, that to be loved you must sacrifice, bend, and bleed. But that was the first lie. A lie so powerful that it shaped the very core of your mind. Because the moment you believed that your value came from serving others, you stopped serving yourself. From the moment you were a child, they planted this poison in you. They called it morality, faith, duty. They said, good people give, good people help, good people never say no, and you obeyed. You gave your time, your peace, your energy, thinking that one day the world would reward your kindness. But the world doesn't reward kindness. It exploits it. The powerful learned early that selflessness is a leash, a way to control you, to keep you docile, agreeable, easy to use. They never played by those rules. They smiled as you carried the weight for them. And every time you said yes when your soul screamed no, you were breaking your own spine for their comfort. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that morality was often just a mask for manipulation, that power and virtue rarely walk hand in hand. He wrote that men are praised for being generous, but destroyed by it, that to survive one must appear kind, but act with calculation. The weak serve, the powerful choose. Every empire, every dynasty, every throne in history was built not by the selfless, but by those who refused to be used, by those who learned to say, my time is mine, my energy is sacred, my loyalty must be earned. You've been told that selfishness is evil, but what if selfishness is just clarity? What if it's simply knowing your worth and refusing to trade it for approval? Because when you keep giving, people stop respecting your effort. They don't admire you, they expect you. And when you finally stop, they call you cold, ungrateful, heartless. But those are not insults. They're confessions. They're admitting they could only love you when you were useful. Look back at your life. How many times did you drain yourself for people who wouldn't cross the street for you? How many times did you shrink your light so someone else wouldn't feel small beside you? How many times did you silence your needs just to keep peace with people who never gave you any? And what did it earn you? Guilt, resentment, exhaustion. You see, there's a pattern. The world will always reward the one who takes, the one who claims, the one who draws lines in the sand and says, this is mine. But the world forgets the ones who serve, the martyrs, the givers, the endlessly available. It buries them in silence. So here's the truth. The first law of power is selfishness, not cruelty, not arrogance, but a ruthless awareness of where your energy goes. The powerful guard their time like kings guard gold. Every minute, every word, every favor, measured, calculated, because they understand that generosity without discipline is suicide. When you give to everyone, you belong to no one, especially not yourself. You become a public resource, a free well for others to draw from, and they will drink until you are dry. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if one must choose." But he didn't mean to become a tyrant. He meant, be respected, be untouchable, make your value known. Because love without respect is dependency, and respect without boundaries cannot exist. So stop apologizing for putting yourself first. Stop explaining why you're not available. Stop feeling guilty for choosing your mission over someone else's comfort. You are not here to be useful to everyone. You are here to become powerful. Power doesn't come from kindness. It comes from control. Control of your focus, your attention, your yes, and your no. If you want to be respected, your no must carry more weight than your yes. When you say yes to everything, your value dissolves. But when you say yes selectively, your worth multiplies. That's the paradox of power. The less you give, the more they want from you. The more you withhold, the more they chase. The more you prioritize yourself, the more the world begins to orbit around you. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not selfish for guarding your focus. You are not heartless for walking away from users. You are awake. Because once you see how the world runs on extraction, you stop being the source everyone drains. You become the source everyone seeks. The powerful don't ask for permission to rest, to detach, to focus. They simply disappear and return with results. They don't justify their silence. Their success speaks for them. That's your task now, to stop explaining, to stop bleeding, to stop being everyone's solution. You owe no one your destruction. You owe no one your burnout. You owe no one the version of you that exists only to please. Because the moment you stop trying to be liked, you become dangerous. And when you become dangerous, you become respected. This is your awakening. This is the first cut, the severing of your leash. The moment you choose yourself. Let them call you selfish. Let them call you distant. Let them call you ruthless. Because what they really mean is, they can no longer control you. That's the beginning of power. That's the birth of freedom. That's the first law of Machiavelli's truth. Stop being useful to everyone and start becoming untouchable. Everything you were taught about being good was never about your goodness. It was about your usefulness. Think about it. From the moment you could walk, you were rewarded for obedience, for saying yes, for complying, for serving the needs of others before understanding your own. They called it discipline. They called it virtue. But what it really was programming. You were trained to serve before you were taught to think. And the ones who benefit most from that training are the ones who taught it. Machiavelli wrote that society is built on illusion, that people are governed not by truth, but by perception. And the greatest illusion of all is that selflessness is moral, while selfishness is evil. But look closer. Every system of power, political, religious, social, depends on your willingness to sacrifice yourself, to give more than you receive, to stay small while others take the throne. It's not an accident. It's an architecture, an invisible design made to keep you in your place. They tell you that giving is divine, so that you never question why you're always empty. They praise humility, so that you never rise high enough to threaten them. They celebrate sacrifice, so that your energy builds their empires instead of yours. That's not morality, that's control. It's the oldest strategy in human history. Teach the strong to feel guilty for their strength, and they'll use it to serve the weak. And who gains? Not the weak, but the rulers, the architects of this illusion. Machiavelli called it necessita, necessity. He said, a wise ruler must learn how not to be good. Not because goodness is wrong, but because goodness without strategy is suicide. So when they told you to give endlessly, they weren't trying to make you holy. They were trying to make you harmless. Look at the most selfless people you know, the ones who are always there for everyone, the ones who never rest, never say no, never take for themselves. What do they look like? Drained, exhausted, invisible, forgotten. And then look at those who set boundaries, the ones who say no, who move in silence, who don't give unless it multiplies their value. What happens to them? They rise, they're feared, they're respected, because power respects control. You see, the world doesn't actually want your selflessness. It wants your energy. It wants your time, your focus, your labor, your heart. It just disguises that hunger under moral language. They say, be kind. They mean, be compliant. They say, be humble. They mean, know your place. They say, be giving. They mean, keep me comfortable. But you were not born to keep the world comfortable. You were born to test it, to push it, to dominate it. And domination does not come from obedience. It comes from awareness, from seeing the architecture for what it is, and stepping outside it. Every ruler, every emperor, every conqueror understood this secret. They used morality as a weapon. They created rules for others to follow while living by their own. Because the powerful understand this law, the one who defines what is good controls the ones who try to be it. Think about that. If someone can convince you that putting yourself first is wrong, they've already conquered you. You'll police yourself. You'll hold yourself back. You'll feel guilty for doing what they do shamelessly every day. That's why the masses stay poor. That's why the givers stay tired. That's why the selfless stay forgotten. Because the systems that praise your sacrifice were never built for your benefit. They were built to drain you slowly, to make you proud of being used, to make you call your own chains compassion. But once you see it, once you see that selflessness is just a cage dressed in gold, you can't unsee it. Ask yourself, who taught you that saying no is rude? Who told you that protecting your peace is selfish? Who benefits when you give away your time for free? It's not you, and it's not God. It's those who profit from your exhaustion. This is the hidden architecture of control. It's not written in laws. It's written in guilt. It's not enforced with chains. It's enforced with expectation. They don't need to imprison your body if they can imprison your conscience. Machiavelli would tell you, learn from the rulers, not the ruled. Don't follow the sheep who brag about their sacrifice. Study the shepherd who owns them. He knew that morality is a weapon, and guilt is its sharpest edge. And the only way to disarm it is to stop apologizing for being powerful. Understand this. You cannot save a world that feeds on your weakness. You cannot help people who refuse to help themselves. And you cannot rise if you're always kneeling. Your compassion must have boundaries. Your generosity must have logic. Your love must have conditions. Because unconditional giving is not kindness. It's surrender. The next time someone calls you selfish for saying no, remember, they only say that because your strength no longer serves their comfort. You are not their servant. You are not their cure. You are not their free supply of time and energy. You are a strategist, a force, a weapon. You exist to build, not to be drained. So, study the architecture. See the invisible cage for what it is, and when you do, step out of it. Not loudly, not with anger, but with silence. Let them talk. Let them guilt. Let them label. Because while they're talking, you'll be building. While they're blaming, you'll be rising. And while they're asleep in the comfort of their illusions, you'll be awake in the empire of your own making. This is the lesson Machiavelli left for the strong. The world's morality is designed to control you. Once you stop obeying it, you stop being useful and start being powerful. Power isn't built on luck. It's built on currency, but not the kind you can hold in your hand. The true currency of power is time, energy, focus. And every empire you've ever admired, every ruler, every mastermind, every titan, knew how to control these three things with ruthless precision. Look around. Most people spend their days like beggars of attention, scrolling, reacting, wasting hours they can never reclaim. They trade their time for approval, their energy for distractions, their focus for nothing. They are rich in potential, but bankrupt in power. Because they never learned the truth Machiavelli whispered through history. The one who controls his focus controls his fate. In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be like both the lion and the fox for strength, the fox for cunning. But both animals share one trait. They waste nothing. No energy, no movement, no emotion that doesn't serve the mission. That's how the powerful live. Every ounce of energy is invested, never spilled. Every second of time is guarded like treasure. Every thought is a weapon aimed with precision. But you were trained to give it all away. Be available. Be reachable. Be flexible. Be kind. Translation: be easy to access. Be easy to use. Be easy to drain. That's how the powerful stay powerful, by feeding on those who can't say no. The average man will spend hours doing what means nothing to him because he's afraid to look selfish. He'll waste his best years serving others' visions, then wonder why his own dreams died quietly in the background. He'll say, "I don't have time." But that's a lie. He does. He just gave it away. To everyone but himself. You must learn what Machiavelli called the economy of attention. Understand, your attention is your throne. Whoever controls it, controls you. Every message, every request, every notification is an attempt to tax your mind, to take a piece of your energy and convert it into someone else's gain. If you wish to rise, you must become a miser of your own focus. You must hoard it like gold. The powerful say no 10 times more than they say yes. They protect their mornings. They disappear for days to think, plan, and move in silence. They're not antisocial, they're strategic. Because they know every yes has a cost. Every meeting is a withdrawal. Every distraction is a robbery. And every time you let your focus be stolen, you are being conquered quietly. You think control looks like armies or weapons. Number. Control today looks like attention. If they can keep you chasing noise, they never need to chain you. Because the man who can't focus, can't build, can't lead, can't dominate. He becomes a servant to his own impulses. You can't buy back the seconds you waste. And that's the most terrifying truth of all. So if you want to build real power, treat your time as your fortress. Let no one enter without purpose. Your energy as your sword, never drawn for battles that don't advance your empire. Your focus as your crown, untouchable, sacred, non-negotiable. Machiavelli taught rulers to act not constantly, but decisively. A king does not chase every opportunity. He studies, he waits, he strikes once, and it's enough. Because focus multiplied is force, and force applied with precision becomes destiny. Every morning, ask yourself, who deserves my time today? Who earns my energy? Who is worthy of my focus? If the answer is no one, then protect your silence. Let your stillness become your rebellion. Because the greatest threat to mediocrity is a man who guards his attention. You cannot be powerful and distracted. You cannot be disciplined and available. You cannot be focused and popular. Choose. Machiavelli would tell you, power demands isolation, not loneliness, but isolation of mind. The separation between the driven and the drifting. While others are busy being useful, you are busy being effective. And that's the difference. Usefulness is reactive. Power is selective. When you say no, you are not rejecting people. You are affirming your purpose. When you say not now, you are protecting the empire inside you. And when you disappear, you are not lost. You are building in the dark, while the world exhausts itself chasing light. The rulers of old guarded their treasuries behind stone walls. You must do the same with your mind. Fortify it, defend it, lock it from noise, from guilt, from distraction. And when you open it, make sure every ounce of time, every drop of energy is spent with strategy. Because this is how power compounds. You say no to what is meaningless, and yes only to what multiplies. Every empire begins with a schedule. Every ruler begins with a boundary. Time is your gold, energy is your army, focus is your crown. Lose them, and you serve. Protect them, and you reign. The world will beg for your attention. Give it only to what builds your throne. This is the third rule of power. Stop spending your time like a beggar. Start investing it like a king. If you ever want to understand the difference between the weak and the powerful, watch how they use one simple word. No. The weak, avoid it. The powerful, live by it. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He wrote that mercy, loyalty, and generosity are all admirable, but they must be used strategically. A ruler who tries to please everyone, he warned, will please no one, and soon be devoured by all. The greatest power in the world is not in doing more, but in refusing what doesn't serve your kingdom. Because when you learn to say no, you reclaim your life from those who would use it for their own. Every man who has fallen fell because he was too available. Every empire that collapsed because it tried to satisfy everyone. You were told to always help, to always care, to always give. But here's the truth. Help, when given without discernment, becomes a leash around your neck. You become the rescuer everyone calls, until one day you realize you've saved everyone except yourself. Machiavelli called this the tragedy of misplaced virtue. The idea that good men destroy themselves by offering loyalty to those who would never return it. And that is why detachment, cold, strategic detachment, is not cruelty. It's survival. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for things that don't deserve your blood. It means you learn to watch without reacting, to observe without absorbing, to walk away without guilt. Because the one who cannot detach is the one who can always be manipulated. Think about how control really works. People don't need to imprison you physically. They only need to make you feel responsible for their emotions. And once you accept that responsibility, they own you. They'll call you selfish when you set boundaries. They'll call you cold when you withdraw. They'll call you arrogant when you refuse to obey. But what they really mean is this: you've stopped being useful to me. And that's the moment you become dangerous. The art of refusal is not about rejection. It's about prioritization. You refuse not because you hate, but because your purpose demands it. A soldier on the battlefield doesn't stop to pick flowers. A lion on the hunt doesn't pause to explain himself, neither should you. Every time you say no, you are sharpening your focus. You are protecting your energy. You are defending your empire. But boundaries don't just protect you from others. They protect you from yourself. Because inside every man lives a part that wants to please, that wants to be liked, that wants to prove his worth through usefulness. That part must die. If you wish to be respected, you must stop being everyone's solution. Stop offering yourself to every cry for help. Stop pouring your energy into people who drain it like thieves in the night. There's a reason kings build walls. Not because they hate the world, but because they understand its hunger. Everyone wants something from you. Attention, validation, effort, time. The world will take everything you allow, so you must decide. What is sacred? What is off limits? What is worth your silence? Machiavelli said that the prince must learn to act not as others wish, but as the times demand. That means you cannot live by guilt. You must live by calculation. Your boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. They tell the world, this is where my energy ends, and yours begins. The world fears the man with boundaries, because he cannot be used, he cannot be guilted, he cannot be rushed. He operates on his own time. He moves by his own rhythm. He answers to something higher than approval. He answers to his mission. master detachment, you start to see clearly. You see who truly values you and who values what you can give. You see which people drain you and which people sharpen you. You see how much of your suffering was simply a result of trying to be everything for everyone. There's a quiet power that comes with distance. When you step back, you stop being a pawn on the board. You become the player watching it. And from that vantage point, you see what others cannot. You see patterns, you see motives, you see truth. Machiavelli said, "Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous." That was not cynicism. It was realism. And realism is the foundation of freedom. So let them call you distant. Let them call you cold. Let them call you ruthless. Because the truth is, the world doesn't respect your kindness. It respects your control. The man who cannot detach will always be controlled by the man who can. That's why rulers are always alone at the top. Because power requires distance. The closer you are to the noise, the harder it is to hear your own strategy. So build your walls. But build them with wisdom. Let in only what strengthens you. Let out only what serves your mission. Your refusal is your weapon. Your silence is your strategy. Your detachment is your throne. Remember this. You owe nothing to those who would drain your power. Not your time, not your explanation, not your peace. You do not exist to fix others. You exist to master yourself. And the moment you stop trying to please everyone, you start commanding everyone's respect. This is the fourth rule of power. To rise above manipulation, you must master the art of refusal. Because the one who can say no rules those who cannot. There comes a moment in every person's journey toward power when silence becomes louder than words and solitude becomes the only teacher left. This is where most turn back, because solitude is not comfortable. It strips you. It exposes every weakness you've hidden behind the noise. But to Machiavelli, isolation was not weakness. It was preparation. It was the crucible where strategy is born and where rulers are forged. You see, the world fears being alone because it equates solitude with abandonment. But those who understand power know solitude is possession. Possession of yourself. Possession of your time, your mind, your direction. The crowd drowns the self. But silence reveals it. When you are constantly surrounded by people, you begin to mirror their thoughts, their fears, their desires. You lose the sharpness of your own mind. You start living through borrowed opinions and inherited emotions. You stop being a creator and become a reflection. That's why Machiavelli wrote that the prince must always be cautious of the crowd, not because they are evil, but because they are noisy. Noise kills clarity. And without clarity, there can be no command. To rule yourself, you must learn the discipline of disappearance. Disappear not out of anger, but out of strategy. Not to escape the world, but to master how it moves. Because solitude is the only environment where truth survives. When the voices of others fade, you begin to hear your own authority speaking within. And that voice, that calm, commanding tone inside you, is the foundation of power. Look at every great mind in history. Philosophers, conquerors, creators. They all withdrew before they rose. Caesar spent years in silence, studying his enemies. Machiavelli himself wrote The Prince in exile, alone, stripped of status, forgotten by the world. And yet it was in that isolation that he wrote the book that would influence kings for centuries. Because true strength does not come from the crowd's validation. It comes from the silence of one's own conviction. You cannot build your empire surrounded by constant noise. Every whisper of distraction is a thief. Every unnecessary voice a trespasser in your temple of focus. So you must withdraw strategically, deliberately, without apology. People will not understand. They will call you distant, arrogant, antisocial. Let them. The ruler does not explain why he guards his throne. He simply guards it. Machiavelli wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must be both. Solitude is where you learn to be both. The lion of silence and the fox of strategy. You retreat not to hide, but to sharpen your claws. The world will always try to pull you back into its noise. Friends, family, society, they fear your distance because your silence makes them question their own stagnation. They'll tell you you've changed. They'll say you're cold. They'll say you think you're better than us. But they're wrong. You don't think you're better. You're becoming different. And difference is threatening to those addicted to sameness. There's a certain loneliness that comes with evolution. The more you grow, the fewer people can walk with you. The air at the top is thin, because not everyone is built to breathe it. And yet, that's where vision is clearest. When you are alone, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop explaining your purpose to people who cannot comprehend it. You begin to operate on instinct, not influence. And that is the birth of command. Solitude teaches you to separate what's essential from what's not, to identify which desires are yours and which were planted in you by others. It's in the silence that your true motives rise to the surface. You start to realize how much of your life was spent chasing approval and how little of it was spent building power. Isolation is not punishment. It's purification. It burns away dependency. It detoxes you from validation. It resets your hunger to its purest form. And once you've tasted that purity, you'll never crave the noise again. When you re-emerge from solitude, you are not the same. You move slower, but each movement has precision. You speak less, but each word carries weight. You appear distant, but your presence commands attention. That's the paradox of isolation. It separates you to strengthen your influence. The weak avoid solitude because they fear their own thoughts. The powerful seek it because they know the mind, when mastered in silence, becomes a weapon. Every hour you spend in solitude is a deposit in your empire's foundation. It's where clarity forms, strategy emerges, and control takes shape. Noise is the cage. Silence is the key. You cannot be useful to the world until you've learned to be complete in isolation. You cannot command others until you've learned to command your own attention. The man who needs constant company will never lead. He will always follow. The man who can stand alone in the darkness of his own making, unshaken, unmoved, will shape nations with his mind. Solitude doesn't separate you from power. It reveals it. Because in silence, there is no noise to disguise your weakness, no distraction to hide your lack of discipline, no crowd to give you false worth. Only you, your thoughts, and the empire you are building inside your own skull. So disappear. Disappear until your vision becomes sharper than their criticism. Disappear until your focus becomes louder than their opinions. Disappear until your presence is missed like oxygen. Because when you return, you won't need validation. You'll bring gravity. This is the fifth rule of power. Isolation is not loneliness. It is transformation. When you can stand alone, you will never again kneel before anyone. Every empire that has ever fallen did not collapse because of outside enemies. It fell because the ruler became emotional, because someone got too comfortable, too reactive, too human. You see, power isn't lost through force. It's lost through feeling. And that's why the final evolution of strength is to become untouchable, not cold, not heartless, but emotionally invincible. To be untouchable is to rule your inner world so completely that no insult, no betrayal, no praise, no flattery can shake the throne of your mind. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are driven by two things, love or fear. And a wise ruler chooses fear, because love depends on others, but fear depends on you." He wasn't glorifying cruelty, he was teaching control, because the man who cannot control how he is perceived will always be a puppet of the world's opinions. The first step to becoming untouchable is emotional neutrality. You must learn to observe without reacting, to see betrayal and not flinch, to hear criticism and not crumble, to face chaos and remain still. Your emotions are your army. If you lose command of them, you lose the war before it begins. When someone insults you, they're not attacking you. They're testing you. They want to see if your power is real or just a mask. The second you react, you've told them exactly where your weak spots are. That's why the powerful don't argue. They don't explain. They don't justify. They simply observe. Because every reaction is currency. And the untouchable never spends his cheaply. You must learn to look at the world like a chessboard. Most people play emotionally. They move out of anger, out of jealousy, out of fear. But the masters, they move from strategy. They study the emotional patterns of others, not to mock them, but to predict them. Because emotion is the most predictable force in humanity. And predictability is weakness. When you are ruled by emotion, you are easy to manipulate. A few words can enrage you. A few smiles can disarm you. A few compliments can make you loyal to the wrong cause. But when you become untouchable, the game flips. You stop reacting, and others begin reacting to you. That's where true dominance begins. Think of every powerful figure in history. Their presence commanded rooms not because they shouted, but because they controlled the temperature of the room. They dictated the energy while others adjusted to it. That's not charisma. That's discipline. That's emotional mastery disguised as magnetism. To reach this level, you must kill your need for validation. The desire to be liked is the root of all emotional slavery, because the one who can make you feel accepted can also make you feel rejected. And if someone can control your mood, they can control your moves. The untouchable breaks that link. He is self-sustained. He is the generator of his own approval. He does not chase applause. He builds in silence and lets results speak. You must become immune to both insult and praise, because both are traps. Praise seduces your ego. Insults test your composure. Both are designed to move you, and once you move, you can be manipulated. The untouchable smiles at both. He knows they are just noise. The crowd will love you one day and crucify you the next. Their loyalty shifts with the wind. So the untouchable never builds his identity on the weather. Machiavelli wrote that appearances matter more than virtue. Not because virtue is meaningless, but because perception creates power. And the wise ruler never shows his weakness, even when he feels it. You can feel pain, just don't display it. You can feel fear, just don't speak it. You can be uncertain, but move as if you aren't. Because perception shapes reality. And the untouchable understands that the world reacts not to who you are, but to what you project. So, project calm. Project certainty. Project silence when others scream. Project confidence when others crumble. Your stillness becomes their confusion. Your composure becomes your weapon. The untouchable doesn't fight chaos. He absorbs it. He lets the storm rage around him, but never within him. Remember, the greatest power in any situation belongs to the one who needs nothing from it. When you are emotionally detached from outcomes, you can see reality with perfect clarity. You are no longer desperate to win, so you cannot be baited. You are no longer terrified of loss, so you cannot be threatened. You become what every manipulator fears, a mind that cannot be moved. The untouchable does not over-explain his motives. He lets mystery work in his favor. Because scarcity creates desire and silence creates intrigue. People chase what they can't fully read. They obsess over what they can't fully understand. That's why the ones who speak least often hold the most power. In this final stage of transformation, you are no longer competing for attention. You are commanding it. Without effort, without noise, without begging, your presence alone communicates dominance. Your restraint communicates confidence. Your silence communicates control. You've stopped playing their emotional game. Now, they're all playing yours. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you choose what deserves your energy. It means no external chaos can disturb your internal order. It means you can walk through fire and come out composed. It means no matter who leaves, who mocks, who doubts, you remain unmoved. That is what separates the powerful from the emotional. In the end, all your discipline, all your solitude, all your focus was leading here, to this moment of unshakable clarity. You no longer chase peace. You are peace. You no longer seek validation. You are validation. You no longer need to be understood. You've outgrown explanation. They will call you cold. They will call you distant. They will call you selfish. Let them. Because behind those words is their fear of what you've become. A person who can no longer be controlled. The world's loudest people are usually the weakest. The calm ones. The quiet, unreadable, poised. They are the ones who truly rule. Because while others are busy reacting, the untouchable is calculating. While others are defending, the untouchable is advancing. While others are fighting for attention, the untouchable has already taken control. This is the last law of your transformation. When you become untouchable, you are no longer at the mercy of the world. The world is at the mercy of you. You've cut the strings of emotional control. You've mastered your perception. You've weaponized your silence. And now, nothing, no opinion, no betrayal, no rejection can break you. Because you've built yourself into something the world cannot manipulate. You've become the storm they cannot predict, the mind they cannot read, the presence they cannot shake. You've become untouchable. This is the final lesson of Machiavelli. Power respects clarity, and clarity belongs only to the ones who no longer need approval.